A friend asked me to tell why I am supporting Adam and why you should vote for Adam Steen for the State Assembly seat, 63rd District in Wisconsin. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 34 from God's Word, the Bible. When I speak in the context of this video, when I use the expression Adam's opponent, I am referring specifically to the person that Adam ran against in the primary election in August. That is who I'm referring to specifically. So Adam's opponent is that person. I'm very passionate about the issue I'm going to speak about in this video, and thank you for watching. And so I may speak somewhat passionately at times with some force, but I want you to see the positive facet of this message. It's Adam's message, and he's on the right side of the issue on this issue. So see the positive in it, and please don't be put off by the passion of my presentation. Going back to March of this year, after over 1 1/3 years, the current assemblyman, Adam's opponent, finally admits, quote, widespread voter fraud, unquote. So the expression, quote, widespread voter fraud, unquote, is a quote from Adam's opponent. I didn't speak the words, I'm just telling you what Adam's opponent said. So Adam's opponent himself admits that there was widespread voter fraud in the 2020 election. Such an admission in March of this year by Adam's opponent was way overdue. This kind of an approach by Adam's opponent causes criminals to think that they can commit crimes without consequences. You do not have to put up with that. We do not have to go through something like that again. As your state assemblyman, Adam Steen will seek to prevent such things from happening. In July, shortly before the primary election day, Adam's opponent came out with some mailers that were attack ads against Adam. They talked about Adam Steen discriminating against military voters. Adam's plan prevents military voters from voting. Well, Adam has already answered this, and what those mailers said is not true. In fact, I would pose the question, did Adam's opponent ask Adam whether that was his view on those specific points before he mailed out these mailers? Did he ask him? If he didn't, how did he know that was Adam's position on these points? And if he didn't ask him, then how could he know that those were Adam's views? And the fact of the matter is, those weren't Adam's views, as Adam has clarified since then. So my point is that Adam's opponent bore false witness against Adam. That should concern every voter. How can we trust someone like that who's going to bear false witness against an opposing candidate for an office? Now these attack ads, I want you to see through these cheap shot attacks and to understand that this kind of thing is a smoke and mirrors method or tactic to try to avoid the real issue of massive voter fraud. So they were just cheap shot attacks, and they never addressed the real issue. Now, the primary voting occurred. Adam gave a speech after the, quote, reported vote totals were, unquote, reported. And Adam emphasized the fact that the ones who voted for him had communicated their thoughts about the voter fraud / election fraud / election integrity issue. Adam pointed out that about twice as many, quote, votes, unquote, were counted as are normally cast in a similar scenario. From where did the larger number of, quote, votes, unquote, come? From where did those votes come? That is an honest question, and it deserves an honest answer. This is something that we should be able to investigate. What is the reason, or what are the reasons that it hasn't been investigated? What are some people trying to hide? Adam then announced that he was going to run a write-in campaign for the general election. And Adam's opponent came out with a statement or an announcement. And here's my commentary on the announcement made by Adam's opponent. And these are all reasons why I support Adam and why you should vote for Adam. Because Adam is offering a positive alternative to the negative approach that his opponent is taking. I have never heard Adam's opponent say that he thinks that the ones who committed voter fraud in the 2020 election should be prosecuted and made to face the consequences of their crimes. I have never heard Adam's opponent say that. Never. Why isn't he saying this? Quote, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. End of quote. Ecclesiastes chapter 8 and verse 11, again from God's word, the Holy Bible. I did not breathe out those words. God did. Is Adam's opponent tacitly increasing the number of wicked people in our state and nation? Because he's not saying that we should execute speedily a sentence against these people who committed voter fraud. Remember, quote, widespread voter fraud, unquote, is a quote from Adam's opponent himself. Is Adam's opponent increasing the number of wicked people by not emphasizing the importance of making those who committed voter fraud face the consequences of their fraud crimes? When will Adam's opponent publicly state that the ones who committed voter fraud should be prosecuted? When will he publicly say that the voter fraud criminals must not be allowed to think that they can commit such fraud with impunity and no consequences? I want those who committed voter fraud to be arrested, prosecuted, and punished for their crimes. And let me say this, I understand, please, that Adam's opponent is not the Attorney General of Wisconsin, and I understand that. But he is a leader in this state because he's the Speaker of the Assembly. And others look to him for leadership, and he should be speaking out on this issue. He's not. Why isn't he saying these things? Why isn't he answering these questions that I'm posing? Why not? What is he trying to hide? I want those who committed voter fraud to be arrested, prosecuted, and punished for their crimes. When Adam's opponent talks about not going back, by not going back, Adam's opponent means not thoroughly investigating the voter fraud in the 2020 election. So when Adam's opponent talks about not going back, it seems like he is implying that we should not enforce our laws against voter fraud, including punishing the criminals. Think about this. Am I really supposed to believe that if someone murdered the wife of Adam's opponent, then Adam's opponent would say that we cannot go back to that? Meaning, go back to the murder, investigate it, find out who committed the murder. Am I really supposed to believe that? Am I supposed to believe that instead Adam's opponent would say, we have to move forward? Are those the things that I am supposed to believe? Really? There is never anything wrong or negative about prosecuting criminals and giving them an appropriate sentence. There is something inherently wrong with Adam's opponent not publicly saying so. I still would like to see an audit of the 63rd State Assembly District primary vote. My friend, please, thank you for listening to this video. Please see this, that Adam's offering of a positive alternative is well thought out, it's reasonable, and it is not lacking objective connection to valid and serious concerns. Thank you for watching this video. God bless Wisconsin, and God bless America.